All right, hello. Today we're going to go over smart objects and how to create mock-ups for your portfolio. We're going to start off with a simple one, and that is going to be working off a template. You may have already downloaded a template file. If you have, then you can go ahead and open that. We do have them on Blackboard for you. Actually, we're going to open a file. Sorry about that. Click on Open, and then I'm going to travel over to my downloads and select our template file here. The template file here that we're going to be working on is this business card template. So all we have to do is click on Open. Typically the template files that do have smart objects in them might end with a PSD-T for template, and that will allow you to open that file and view all the different layers on here. Now, typically you will see a couple of smart objects right over here highlighted for you. Depending on where you downloaded the file from, you'll have it nicely highlighted for you. Some things will be locked, like this filter over here and the lighting, but typically you don't have to worry about any of those settings in a template file. What you do have to worry about is going into the smart object and adding your image into the template. You'll know that it's a smart object because the little thumbnail here will also have a little icon over here that looks like a little bit of a file. And if you double click on that, it'll open a new file. Smart objects are kind of like nesting dolls. They are a PSD file inside of a PSD file. And what that does is it allows the original PSD file to reference a different file, meaning that it's going to keep the resolution and the quality of that original file. So no matter how many times you shrink it or enlarge it, it's going to stay nice and high quality because it's referencing that original image. So let's see what that looks like. This particular business card template has it nicely named, where you can insert your image here, and it shows you that this is the back of the business card while this is the front of the business card. So you can kind of swap out the front or the back. So let's double click on the thumbnail here to open up our smart object. If we open up our smart object here, we'll notice that we have a layer called Your Image here. We'll also notice that we have two different tabs open over here. We have our original file, and then we have our smart object right over here. To insert our images into a nice mock-up template like this, all we're going to do is drag and drop our file or open our file and put it inside of our smart object. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop my business card file here right into my canvas here, and I'm going to click OK. And that's going to insert my business card right on top over here. I want to click that checkbox or hit enter to place my file. And once I do that, all I have to do is save or close my business card back smart object. So if I close it by clicking that X up top over here, it's going to ask me if I want to save that smart object. I want to save that smart object because I want to apply that change. Once I hit save, it's going to close it, save it, and update my template or my mock-up with my business card back over here. And now I can kind of see my mock-up with all my business cards right over here. If I wanted to adjust the other one, I can click over here and I can either insert another image here or create my own artwork. Here we go. Let's do that. And then we'll put this in back. And if this is our final version of our business card, or we inserted a back of our business card or front of our business card, we can again close it, hit save, and that will update our image. So that was pretty straightforward. We are just updating our smart objects and inserting our image into place. If you don't have a template though, you can create your own template or your own mockup with these next few tricks. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I'm not going to save it. And we're going to open a new file here. And whoops, sorry, we're going to open a file here. And that is this image over here of this bus stop. And this is just an image that someone took with their camera, and it doesn't have a advertisement in there. So what we did earlier was basically create a box, a white box, to remove the advertisement that was actually in there, so we can place it in our own into here. But it's one solid image. It's one layer, just the background layer. So we will have to create our own template or our own smart object. And we'll add some details like a shiny reflection to that so that we have a little bit of realism and it looks like it belongs in that environment. So a little bit of compositing for creating our own custom templates or mockups. Cool. So what we'll do first is we will create a shape with our shape tool. Typically it'll be a rectangle, so we'll be using our rectangle tool right over here. And what we want to do is sort of guess how tall and how wide that our poster will be on this side of the bus stop. But of course, we have to do it flat. The bus stop has some perspective in it, so we're going to have to do that or apply that perspective to our poster. But before we do that, we're going to create a shape that kind of has as close of a ratio to that rectangle as possible. So I'm going to draw out my shape, and I typically like to start out by clicking on one corner, going down to this other corner, and then guessing something like this about how wide it should be and how tall it should be. So I'm going to guess something like this. Maybe a little bit wider here, somewhere like that, I'm guessing. And that's a good start for me. Once I like the shape and I think that's probably where it's gonna go, I'm gonna turn that rectangle that I just created into a smart object. So I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna rename this rectangle to poster, and then I'm gonna right click on that poster shape and convert that to a smart object. And what that'll do is have a nice rectangular flat poster for my smart object, and I can then just replace my poster with that smart object just by double clicking over here and adding my poster inside of my smart object. I'm going to close that off for now though, and what I'm going to do is go back to my main composition, and we're going to apply a transformation to it so that we can actually match that perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command T on my keyboard, or you can go to layer and then transform. Where are we? Layer. I always forget sometimes. I guess it's edit transform. Sorry, edit transform. I'm used to hitting Command T. But you can go to edit transform right here into free transform, and that will give you your transform controls. So that's what you want to do. You want to hit Command T or click on transform and click on distort. So I'm going to click on Command T. I'm going to right click on my object here, and I'm going to click on distort. And what that will do is allow me to move these corners individually and place them right on top of my rectangle perfectly corner to corner. So I like to zoom in to get precise. You can either hold the Option button on your Mac and use the scroll wheel, or you can hit Command plus or minus to zoom in. I'm holding the space bar so I can turn my icon or my cursor into a hand so I can click and drag my canvas. And I'm going to let go of my space bar here. And I can drag this corner perfectly right into there. And I'm going to do the same thing to all the corners. Zoomed in nicely and tightly so I can be pixel perfect. And once it is in place exactly how I like it and in the correct perspective here, then I'm going to just hit enter over here. Or you can hit that little checkbox to accept the change. So we're going to go ahead and hit that checkbox and commit that change. Now our box here that is a regular rectangle, perfect with right angles, in our smart object, once we double click on that, a nice perfectly shaped spot here. Okay, next up, we're going to add a little bit of details. So we want to make sure that our poster looks like it's in the environment that it's in. We want it to be realistic, so we might want to add some reflections to our poster. So in this case, we don't really have any reflections on our white backdrop, so we'll have to kind of add reflections to make it look a little bit more realistic. After all, we do have some reflections right over here on the border, so we're going to try to match something a little bit realistic here. One of the things that we can do, or a trick that we can do, is if we have enough room or enough background space in our environment, we can use part of our environment as a reflection. So I'm going to actually try to use this quarter or this half of the environment of our background right over here. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can actually select all of it. Right over here, I'm going to kind of make a copy of this area. Whoops. I'm going to make a copy of this area on my background. And then we're going to place it on top of our image over here. So we're going to take that background, we're going to hit copy, because we have that layer selected. So I'm going to hit Command C to copy, or you can go to edit copy, and then you're going to paste it with a Command V, or paste. And when we paste it, that's going to create a new layer over here. I'm not sure why this is not continuing to pop up over here, but hopefully we can get rid of it. If not, hopefully forgive me for that. There we go. Okay. All right. Now we have our layer over here. It doesn't look like anything is changed because we did copy and paste it right on top of this layer, but when of our background layer. But when we move it, we can see that we have a copy of that layer over here. And I'm going to actually flip this layer over here by going into my image. Or I'm sorry, we're going to go to Edit. Sorry, we're going to go to Edit and Transform. Keep forgetting. And we are going to click on Flip Horizontal. And that will flip our image so that it's like a mirror. And we'll place it right on top of our poster, like that. Okay. We also want to pay attention to the layer order. So we're going to put this layer on top. And actually, we're going to rename this to Reflection so that we know that that's our reflection layer. And it's on top of our poster here. And we're going to create a clipping mask so that it doesn't go anywhere outside of our poster. It's only going to be inside of our poster. So we're going to right-click on our reflection layer, and we're going to click on Create Clipping Mask. And that will kind of create a cutout of just that image on top of our poster. At this point, what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that we can see through that reflection. So it looks like it's an actual reflection and not our poster. So we want that reflection layer, and we want to change our blend mode. Now this is where you can experiment with different images because every image, every composition might have a different result. So it's going to depend on the content of your image. It's going to depend on the content of your poster as well. But one way to kind of test it out is to kind of go through it and look at these different ways that the reflection looks like with these blend modes here. And if it were on a red poster, then maybe the reflection would look something like this with darken or maybe multiply. I think maybe multiply works for this right now. So we'll click on multiply and see how that works. And we might also change the opacity of the image itself so that it's a little bit lighter over here. So we see a little bit more of the poster and a hint of our image here. All right, for those instances or cases where we don't have enough in our environment that we can use as a reflection, then another option is to use a different image as a reflection. Using the exact same process. We would just bring in that image. So let me hide this for now. I'll bring in this image over here by dragging and dropping it into our canvas. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm essentially going to hit enter so that it can go into our canvas, and I'm going to create a clipping mask so it only goes into our poster here. And from there, I can adjust my image however I want with whatever reflection I want it to have. So something like that, for example. And then, of course, we are adjusting the opacity for that reflection, and possibly the blend mode to see how it would look like reflected. Maybe linear burn works well for this particular image. Okay, we're going to use the reflection from our original image though, but that's how you can add one. I'm going to add one more little detail, and that is some light for some highlights. in case you wanted to add a little bit of lighting depending on your image. I'm going to add a little bit of sunlight by going into my shapes, and I'm going to select my ellipse tool over here, and I'm going to select a nice bright color, maybe nice and white highlight over here, and click OK. And then I'm going to select where I'm going to have that highlight. And if the sun is coming in from this side, maybe I want a circular highlight from the sun right there. Or maybe I want it right in the middle over here. I may have a rectangular light source or several small circular light sources. I can use the same technique to add lights to my reflection, as you'll see here. So once we have the size that we like, we have our nice shape. Actually, I'm going to make sure that my shape doesn't have any stroke to it. Okay, and I'm going to then go to Filter, and I'm going to add a blur to it, a Gaussian blur, because I want those edges to be soft around my highlight. So let's click on Gaussian blur. It'll ask me if I want to convert to a smart object because it's a shape. Yeah, let's do that. Let's convert it to a smart object. That way, if I want to, I can adjust the color of that shape if I needed to. So let's click on Convert to Smart Object, and then we can blur it. We'll increase the blur here to something that I like, that looks like a nice soft light, something like this, and then we'll hit OK. And from here, we'll also make sure that it is inside of our poster. So we will create a clipping mask for it. Right-click and create clipping mask. Just in case if we move it, we can, or if we decide to move it, it stays within our poster. And then, of course, this is where we also add a little bit of adjustment to our opacity and our blend mode. So we'll bring the opacity down a little bit so we can have a little bit of light seeing through it. And maybe we'll change our blend mode so that we can see a little bit of a different look. So maybe the hard light works a little bit better. And we'll bring down the opacity here, and now we kind of have a little bit of a reflection here. Okay, and we can adjust that reflection however we might want. We can go into add more. If we had a light on top over here, for example, that was shining down here, then we would do the same idea, except that it would more likely be a rectangle for that light. So then we can, of course, get rid of that stroke. Go into our, oops, here we go. Create a clipping mask. Right-click on a rectangle and create a clipping mask so that it's inside of our poster. And if we have a light coming down from here, reflecting against our poster, it may also need to be adjusted that way. Then we can go ahead and go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, convert to our smart object. That looks like a nice blur there. And of course, going into our blend modes, we can change this to different settings here. Maybe a hard light, and bring down the opacity a little bit to add a little bit of that highlight there. And that's how you can kind of create your own template. Of course, with our poster over here, we can now finally go into our poster smart object, and we can drag and drop our poster right in place. Oops, actually something's off with that one. Sorry about that. Let's see what happened here. No, that should be all good there. That's weird. Okay, we'll do this. We'll make sure that this is viewable. We'll export this as a JPEG and we'll use a JPEG. Apologies for that. Okay, so you have your poster all set. We'll use the JPEG version here. We'll put that inside and adjust it so that it fits nicely in there. Do want to make sure we have all of our text in there, so we'll change the background of our poster to something more like, there we go. Or we can also hit the shift button and just kind of adjust it this way too. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect, so long as it fits inside of there. There we go. And then we're going to save that, hit save, and take a look at our results over here. So that's looking pretty good there. Of course, this is during the daytime, so maybe that highlight is not necessary here. So maybe that rectangle, that light, we'll hide it and see if that does a nicer job here. And that gives us a little bit of a realistic look, a nice reflection, and our poster is inside of our image. From here, though, you can kind of make further adjustments. If you feel that reflection is a little bit too much, you might want to adjust it a little bit. You can. And just make tiny little tweaks from there with your reflection and light layers. But that's pretty much the gist of it. You can create your own templates. The easiest ones, of course, are the ones that already exist. But the ones that already exist, you might find that they get around a lot. So you might want to change your mind on that. Use ones that are unique to make your portfolios unique. But thank you for watching and listening. If you have any questions, you can always ask myself or Jill. We will also be able to, of course, rewind, pause, watch this video at your own pace. And hopefully this helps you create your mock-ups for your portfolio. And have a great day.